Good afternoon, and welcome to the Danube Water Forum 2024. Wow, we are really excited. So many people who made it today to Brașov in beautiful Romania. We expect even more people tomorrow, as far as I know. So really a huge crowd, and it's great that so many of you took the long journey also to come here to Brașov. It's really great to see you. Maybe to briefly introduce myself, my name is Raimund Meyer. I work for the World Bank. I'm Water Resources Management Specialist and the team leader for the Danube Water Program. And who is standing here next to me is Kati Schilling, who is the head of office from IWD, our partner organization with which we implement the Danube Water Program. In the meantime, since more than 10 years already. The overarching topic of the Danube Water Forum this year is riding the wave, water sector innovations for a new climate reality. But maybe before we go into that, just some brief logistical announcements. There will be quite a significant number of presentations today and tomorrow also, so we have really an intensive program ahead of us. And the presentations will be held in English, but we have also foreseen translation into Romanian language. So any of you who would prefer to follow the discussions in Romanian language, please help yourself at the back also with the translation equipment as well. We tried really to put together a very interesting program for this year. We also had a look at the last Danube Water Conference, which took place around 1 year ago in Vienna, on what people and participants find attractive in terms of topic. And one topic which came up was the topic of innovation, and another topic also climate change, which is becoming more and more our day-to-day reality. So we thought, let's combine the topic and let's address the issue of water sector innovations in the new climate reality. We have more than 300 registrations this year. I think we are reaching a new record because normally we had around 180, 200 participants. So we really look forward to this exchange today and tomorrow with this huge audience. So thanks a lot for all your interest also to participate. And we would also in the beginning already again thank our in particular institutional partners, which is the Austrian Ministry of Finance, supporting the Danube Water Program since more than 10 years already. And also one partner which came in more recently, the Austrian Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, Regions and Water Management, which particularly supports the young water professionals' involvement in the frame of our activities as well. Kati, handing over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Raimund. I mean, when I look at you here and in this crowd, the one word that pops up in my mind is wow. We're super excited, as Raimund pointed out, because of the massive amount of people that decided to join us. It's a great day. It's, I think, already now quite a big success for the Danube Water Program and IWD especially. I'm happy to see that my IWD family, my Danube Water Program family, the ARA family, and also my IWA family finally is united here today. So it's really great. This event would not be possible without our partners. Raimund just mentioned our institutional partners, but we also have conference supporters, among them our premium partner, Clarvin. Thank you very much for providing support to us, but also other companies like Wabak, Xylem, Hach, New IBNet, Deal, and Sommer, Messtechnik. So you will have during the break quite significant amount of time to go to them, talk to them. Please take that opportunity and liaise with them and talk about the innovation and their innovative technology. In addition, of course, we have a co-organizer. It's the Utility of the Future Center of Excellence, and you will hear a couple of presentations throughout tomorrow about this important initiative. And last but definitely not least, our hosts. On the one hand, APA Brașov, and on the other hand, the Romanian Water Association. So a great and huge thank you and shout out to them, because we would not be here without you. So thank you so much for that one. Now, from the partners and the hosts and the organizers to you, the participants, we have here participants from 21 countries. All countries of the Danube region are represented. 50% of you are coming from Romania. So going to the region, going to host countries, I think was a good idea because that was exactly what we wanted to achieve, a good and huge participation from one country, including neighboring countries. In addition, we have 30% participation from Bulgaria, which is a neighboring country, obviously, as well as Kosovo and Albania. And that's probably because our last forum 2 years ago took place in Albania. And we are really proud that so many people decided to join us here as well. When you look at the graph, you see that the majority comes from utilities, which is great because we are working at IWD with utilities and we love to see that our community is here. In addition, we have corporate members quite significantly and then a fair share of all the others. I would like to mention specifically, again, the young water professional. It's 4% only, but as we can see them in the back, they're lining up. We have a significant number of young water professionals from the region and also a significant amount of students here from the university in Brasov present. And like who knows me knows that these guys are close to my heart. I personally started my international career actually in the International Water Association as a young water professional. So I'm totally happy that we are able to give back basically and support you guys with the help of the Ministry of Environment to join this important event. Good. Next slide. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Kati. It's my pleasure to introduce the social events and to raise awareness about them. What we have coming up after the opening session is the networking and poster session, which will be started around 4:30 in the afternoon here outside of the conference room. And I was asked to also flag that drinks will be served. So as an additional incentive to participate really at the poster session after the opening session. Then afterwards, there will also be a conference dinner today in the evening, which will start at around 7 p.m. It will be in the restaurant Belvedere, which is a little bit further away from here, but together with our hosts here, it was possible to organize transport also there. So there will be buses leaving from the hotel at 6:15. So please come down in front of the Conwell Hotel here at 6:15 to join the bus. For those who may be located in the city center, there's also travel organized from the city center, and you will find more information on this point also in the conference brochure. Here briefly, the conference brochure. I hope everybody of you got one when entering the conference room here. So all logistical information, further information on the event itself can be obtained from the brochure. If you have specific questions, please don't hesitate reaching out either to IWD colleagues or to World Bank colleagues or to other colleagues who are familiar with the venue and the event here. And also we want to make you aware that a group picture will be taken tomorrow, 30th of May at 1:15. Where this group picture will be taken will be announced tomorrow, closer to the group picture session itself. So please keep your eyes open. Handing over to you.
Thanks, Raymond. Yeah, social media, again, who knows me knows that this is also one of my important topics, the communication. So please follow us on our LinkedIn account. The hashtag is 2024 DWF. Last year, I asked you to help us to reach 1,000 followers on LinkedIn. This year, I'm asking you to help us the 1,500 followers. So whoever wants to support us here is more than welcome. And just that you know, all like materials, like presentations, a summary of the event, also the recordings will be made available on the events page.
Okay, with this brief logistical and introductory information, we are reaching a point where we would like to hand over to the words of welcome. We are very happy that many colleagues, many representatives from supporting institutions, from international institutions, from the hosts, kindly are available to provide welcome words. And with this intro, we would like to start with the first introductory welcome, which will be provided by Ms. Elisabeth Gruber from the Austrian Ministry of Finance, our long-term supporter. Elisabeth Gruber is the Director for International Financing Institutions, and I see that the technology works. Excellent. Elisabeth, we can see you. I hope we can also hear you. And with this, we would like to hand over to you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I just listened to you and this wonderful program, and I regret actually not to be able to be there. But it looks like a very tempting program that you have in front of you. So it's my real pleasure that I am able to warmly welcome you to this year's Danube Water Forum on behalf of the Austrian Ministry of Finance. And as already said, I really do regret that I cannot be with you here in person. But I'm very pleased actually to hear, and we just heard it also from your introduction, that this year's forum has attracted so much interest. And it seems to be that this will be one of the largest numbers of participants so far in the history of the different Danube Water Partnerships forums that we had in the past. The Danube Water Program, in fact, is one of the long-standing programs that the Austrian Ministry of Finance has supported together with the World Bank. And I dare to say it's truly a flagship program. The program has made outstanding contributions over the past 11 years already, from analytical and advisory work, policy support, capacity building, to events like today's Danube Water Conference and this forum. Let me therefore express a big thank to the program team, to both of you for your excellent work, and also for let me congratulate you for organizing this big event. The unique value of the forum is that it brings together stakeholders and experts from the Danube region, clearly, to discuss challenges and opportunities in the water sectors and create possible solutions. The topic of this year's forum addresses the need for water sector innovations to respond to a new climate reality. After experiences the 11 hottest months on record since pre-industrial times, the importance of the new climate reality is very clear. And of course, the Danube region is not immune to global challenges like water scarcity, drought, and other impacts of climate change. The Ministry of Finance and me personally believe that this is of big concern and should require joint action. So let us work together to address these challenges that we have to face today. This said, I wish you all very useful and inspiring exchanges with all the new friends, so to say, and with colleagues over the next couple of days. And I hope this today will be inspiring and lead to sustainable support the water sector in the Danube region. Thank you and all the best to you.
Thank you very much, Elisabeth, for all the support, also all the past years of you and your team. Hopefully, personal participation will work out next year when we are back with the Danube Water Conference in Vienna. So thanks a lot. With this brief welcome words, we would like to move on to the next welcome words, and I would like to invite Mr. Winston Yu, who is our practice manager from the World Bank on water for Europe and Central Asia, who also made the long way to Brasov to welcome us and to participate in the event. So Winston, handing over to you also for welcome words.
Can you hear me? Okay. On behalf of the World Bank, let me just warmly welcome you to Brasov and also to the Danube Water Forum. First of all, I just want to thank Elizabeth and the Ministry of Finance for now the 10 years of generous support to events like these and the program. Broadly speaking, also want to thank especially IWD, not only for organizing all of this, but the intellectual leadership and the thinking that goes behind, what are we going to talk about over the next 2 days. And then finally, of course, thank you to our Romanian colleagues and friends for hosting us here. This is my first time to Brasov, and the history here is quite tremendous and interesting for me. Last night at dinner, I was asking our team about the title of this year's event, Riding the Wave. And it made me think, I don't know if you've had this experience before, but the one time I did try to actually ride a wave, it ended up with myself upside down underwater and a lost surfboard somewhere. I find this title this year very apropos. I think it's an excellent metaphor for the struggle that I find in just keeping up with the latest climate science, the latest climate policy, and perhaps even more importantly, the latest innovations and the latest solutions that different communities are finding to address the challenges that we all are here today to discuss. In 2018, I'm sure many of you heard about what was happening in Cape Town. Of course, every South African was, their eyes were glued to the television to figure out what would Cape Town do? How would they respond? Today, you're probably reading the news, Mexico City is in a very similar predicament. And I ask all of you, who's next? Jakarta, Sao Paulo, Istanbul? I don't know. But for the World Bank, as a global institution, we have a global challenge program. And one of the key dimensions of that program is very much the knowledge. And how do we share knowledge and solutions? And so for me, forums like this, the Danube Water Forum, is an excellent opportunity for all of us to share our ideas. And perhaps even more importantly, to bring in ideas from outside of the Danube region, as well as export your solutions here to others. Because for the billions who are out there who will face day zero challenges, I think it really requires us to share knowledge. And so I'm quite delighted to be here and hear the conversation. And so with that, just wishing you all a great forum, a great learning experience, and look forward to hearing the exchanges that will happen over the next 2 days. Thank you.
Thank you, Winston. And with that, I would immediately hand over to Walter Kling, IWD President, for his welcome words.
Well, thank you. And let me do one thing. I'm confident that we are facing a success. So usually you thank or you congratulate at the end of the event. Let me do it at the beginning. I really want to congratulate everyone who is present here, to be present here, to be a witness of what's happening. But also personally, let me thank Doro Papa for his work, for Apa Brasov, for his team. It's great to be here. We had the thought that Brasov would be a good location to run an event, not such a big one, but we are exhausted of how much we were able to grow it. Let me congratulate ARA. ARA as an association in the Danube region. Romania is the biggest country, but ARA is also one of the biggest waterworks associations, running appropriate programs, showing others in the region how you can contribute to the water sector and really for the utilities in the region. ARA is a leading example. So congratulations for ARA being a partner with us. Let me congratulate the International Water Association. It's people, the whole board of IWA, the whole leadership of the International Water Association is present here in Brasov. They choose and they decided to come to Brasov. It's quite a way to do it from around the world. We have representatives from all continents to run their meetings here and to witness the example of how you can build up a utility program in an area like the Danube area. So congratulations for your decision being here and supporting our events. Congratulations to the World Bank being such a good partner. So, well, saying thanks or congratulations really to have the confidence that the World Bank and Winston, you started at the beginning, you give us 3 years on the Danube Water Program. You said probably an extension of another 3 years. So we are now facing 12 years of this program. Congratulations for the tough decisions made in Washington as well, seeing that this program is a leading program in the water sector and witnessed around the world. Thanks for that. And finally, congratulations to the IWD team, to the ladies behind the scenes, not only Kathy standing in front of you here chairing this first session. It's a great team working together with Apa Brasov to deliver this great event. So congratulations for them, what they already achieved, and enjoy the next 2 days. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter, for your kind words. Next in line of the speakers is Mr. Theodor Doru-Popper, that I would like to call up, the hero of the day, basically. He will provide a short welcome and also introduce the upcoming Romanian welcome speakers.
So I need this place to sleep my note because I'm so nervous that I will forget. First, I have to take a selfie with you and give me a round of applause. Thank you. I never thought, but always hoped that someday the Danube Water Forum will happen in Romania. 30 years ago, I was joining the technical department of the water company situated not so far from this place. It was right after the fall of the communism. The technical situation was so bad and the infrastructure failed to provide water supply. A long journey started then. After 3 decades and more than 250 million invested, with the help of EBRD and EU funds, now we are in a far better situation. As I speak, a new huge investment programs are on the way. This is the story of all of the major water utilities in Romania, represented here by more than 100 colleagues here in the room, which I have to thank. Thank you. But new challenges came across, like climate change with droughts and floods, AI technology, and water loss. Now I become a poet. This event, having here today, this forum, a dream came true. This could not happen without the Danube Water Association initiative, the World Bank and Austrian government support, without the enthusiastic people such David Michaud, Philip Weller, and Mr. Walter Kring here in the room, and many others. Thank you all. The Danube Water Program involved the work of all the water associations in the region and cooperation with the International Water Association, represented here by its president and the entire board. Thank you for coming. Finally, I would like to pay a special tribute to some of the visionaries and founders of the Danube Water Program. Filip Jantris, former Albanian Water Association Director, and the former Romanian Water President, Vasile Ciomos. They passed away, but their legacy is more vivid than ever. I never thought, but always hoped that someday this will happen. The Danube Conference in Romania, right here in Brașov, not so far from my first and the only company. Thank you, Philip. Thank you, Vasile. Thank you all. Welcome to Brașov. Thank you. Thank you so much. Today, the Romanian Water Association is moving forward with new ambitions in transforming water in the national priority. A program launched and led by Professor Engineer Ilie Vlaicu, the General Manager of Timișoara Water Company, Aquatim, and the Romanian Water President. Please.
Thank you, Doru. Good afternoon, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, colleagues and friends. As the president of Romanian Water Association, which is one of the hosts of this event, allow me to issue all a warm welcome to Danube Water Forum and the beautiful city of Brașov. It's an honor to be here, surrounded by so many professionals in the water field. As you all know, this forum brings together over 150 prominent representatives from the water sector, both from the Danube basin and from other areas, to debate some of the most important issues facing water companies in the region. The Romanian Water Association reunites over 40 water companies in the country, spread all over Romania, but the same challenge ahead, how to face changing climate while finding the best ways to cope with it, floods that storm into city, clogging the wastewater treatment plants, the draft on the groundwater, all equally dangerous for the service operator. Another topic of growing interest these days is the circular economy, and we can able to water sector. We have the best lecturers here. Among us, we will certainly explain the most ingenious, the most importantly sustainable method for the reuse, the water and wastewater in the city, in the small settlements. Of course, nothing can be without the most important resource you have, the employers, the people, the professional, those who work every day in order to provide the citizen with the most important thing, water. Therefore, during this forum, discussion will take place regarding the employers and how we bring more young and determined people in the sector in our company. To find the best approach for the challenge, we encourage you participate in the session and observe the information from our speaker. Those who stay in front of you, there's a professor from prestigious university, the COS from large company, specialist in various fields. They have in common, besides the passion from the water field and the desire to find solutions to the growing problem from the world. Thank you for following today in Brașov. I invite you to enjoy what's the presentation and the meetings I have prepared for you, but also the town and the people around. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. All of our intentions could not be happening without involvement of the local and central authorities. We have here in the room the head of the president of the regulator, because they had already a forum, and it is my pleasure to invite Mrs. Roxana Mânzatu, the State Secretary on Water Issues here in Romania. She is coming from Brașov, and she used to be the Minister of European Funds. She's a very prominent personality of the government, I would say.
Thank you. I am not. Hello, and welcome to Brașov. I am very grateful and honored to say to you all, welcome to my city. I am welcoming you also on behalf of the Romanian government, of course, but I am from Brașov, and I think you couldn't have chosen a better place to get together and discuss about innovation. Innovation in such an important natural resource, water. We at the central level of the government, together with the Romanian Association of Water, together with the regulators, with Mr. Tescaru, Minister of Environment, with most of Romanian ministries, are trying to work inside the high-level working group to try to push forward some of the policies and the legislations that still challenge us in Romania, not only in Romania. While still discussing about introducing new network and new systems in parts of the white zones of Romania, we are also discussing about the need to adapt to climate challenges, about the need to diminish water loss, about the need to have energy efficiency. And I'm working in the field of European funding, and so one of the main elements that united us in this high-level working group on water was to find funding for pilot and then scaled interventions so that we have less water loss, more energy efficiency, and the latest of challenges somehow to address this need to have more professionals in the water industry. And I'm so delighted to see this concept here promoted today of young professionals in the water system, because we are also working with universities and challenged by the need to bring more young people into this industry. So in the end, what I want to share with you is that I really appreciate that such a forum in the Danube region takes place in Brașov, in Romania, because it is and definitely will be not only practical, but I'm sure inspirational. We need to have examples and best practices and solutions shared among us. We need to have the best of brains and professionals together in a nice environment and have this positive side brought forward so as to be able to bring forward solutions, technological, legislative, financial, of course. I trust that this will be the output of your 2 days here in Brașov. And I will again say thank you to the organizers, to the Danube Water Program, to Compania Apa Brașov, which is our home utility company, and of course to my friends and our partners, the Romanian Association of Water. May this be just the first maybe, or just one of the international high-level events on water that Romania will host and which will inspire us to do better in the region. Best of luck in these days and have a nice time in Brașov.
Thank you, Mrs. Minister. So it is my great pleasure, and I never thought that the president of IWA will make such a long journey. He's coming from Australia. He's not from UK. Now I would like to invite Mr. Tom Molenkov, the IWA president.
Thank you, Doro. Having traveled 20,000 kilometers, it seems a little strange that I should be asked to offer you words of welcome. So maybe I will offer instead words of thanks. Dear fellow water professionals, dear friends, Banu, hello. It really is my very great pleasure to be with you here today. And not just my pleasure, but I think it has been the pleasure of the entire International Water Association Board to be here in Brașov. We have come here, as you know, for 2.5 days of meetings, but also very importantly to join this event, the Danube Water Forum. And it's important for us to be at a strong regional event like this because whilst we are a global organization, we are the largest association of water professionals internationally. We operate, we have participation from 140 companies. So we think big, we think on an international scale, but we know the value of the saying, think global, act local. This is very much a case of it's no sense having big aspirations unless you are able to deliver on a local and regional scale. And the strength of this forum here today and tomorrow, I think demonstrates amply that we can tackle the challenges with this level of enthusiasm and engagement. This event really does tackle important issues for society and for the environment. And it's doing so in a practical and constructive way. We water professionals don't want to dwell on the problems. We don't want to scream and wail in the streets. We want to get on with business and fix it. And the Danube Water Forum, through a very strong program developed by ERVD and supported by the World Bank, has been able to deliver constructive on-the-ground action, raising capacity, helping to build partnerships, strengthening the sector. It's also great to be here because I think you can tell I feel very much amongst friends. And when I say amongst friends, you've heard already about the great work that Dora Popper here has done, but I really do want to add my sincere thanks. Dora is not just a leader here in Kompania Upper Brasov, but he is the treasurer of the International Water Association. He is on the board of directors, chairs our finance and investment committee. He's a great leader, but as you can tell, he's a wonderful human being and a great person to be around. We can all learn much from you, Dora, including how to take great selfies. I'll take some more lessons from you on that later. My thanks to our local hosts, to ARA, to Kompania Upper Brasov. My thanks to all of you for being here. And I think with that, I should say, mulțumesc. Thank you.
Thank you, President. Now the floor is it's yours. I have to thank you especially to Kati and Antonia and to the local team because they work a lot. It started many months ago, not to say 1 year. We learn a lot from them.
Thank you, Doro. Okay, over there. Perfect. So, after all those words of welcome, we would like to enlighten you again, engage you here with a little bit of participation in PODEF. So, for those of you who don't know this from our former conferences, you can scan this QR code with your mobile phone, and you will see a few questions, hopefully, if technique allows us. Those questions in principle will change throughout the conference. We will usually also do it for the Q&A sessions, just that you know, but it will be announced in the different sessions. So let's give it a try. I hope you're able to see something now. Okay, it seems we cannot get the responses on screen. Okay, so one more try for everyone to scan it. I see the technicians and my staff and Katja arguing a bit in the back. Okay, if it doesn't work out, it was a nice try. We know we have to work on it further and we'll try again. In any case, I think we're not getting results, right? Okay, good.
We can do it with hands, maybe. People can raise their hands.
Exactly. So then, who traveled less than 1 hour? Let's go analog again. Hands up, less than 1 hour. Oh, that's just a few people. Who traveled between 2 and 4 hours? Okay, good. Traveled between 4 and 8 hours. Okay, more hands. And now traveled for more than 8 hours. So, Doro, appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Let's stay analog, huh, Kati?
Absolutely.
Next question, what do we have here? One of Brasov's main attractions is the Dracula Castle, the Bran Castle. I'm sure many of you are aware of this. And who drafted these questions, actually? It's an interesting one because, okay, one answer is you really want to visit the Bran Castle before you leave. So who really wants to visit the Bran Castle or who visited already? Okay, a couple of people here. Who didn't eat enough garlic yet to be able to go there without risk? Okay, also some. So maybe the evening dinner is an opportunity. Then next answer, don't really want to go. I have enough Draculas back at home. Enough bloodsuckers, I guess. also some. People with kids, I guess. I don't believe that Dracula exists, but it's a nice looking castle and worth a visit. Also some. And the last one, I actually lived there. Nobody comes from Castle. Some locals. Okay. And I think that was rather the warm-up, right? To take the techniques, which doesn't work. Now we go more into the subject on innovation. Just one question before we really jump into the keynote speech. Personally, I find innovation as a topic inspirational. Who thinks innovation is an inspirational topic to gain new ideas? You like to talk about it and learn? Oh, yeah, quite some people. It's great for my own professional development since I'm always learning. So who sees a huge opportunity in innovation as well? Excellent. It's critical for us to be able to face the challenges of the future. So innovation is critical to address the challenges. Okay. It's difficult to focus on given the operational pressures I'm under. So I would like to do innovation, but actually I'm too busy to deal with it. Oh, you all have enough time. Excellent. Good to hear. And the last possible answer, innovation is distracting. We really have other things to do. So it's rather the conservative approach. Nobody really. So I see we have like a critical mass dealing with innovation. I think we are well set for the forum. And maybe Carla, that's maybe a nice introduction for you also, because we have with us Carla Vairava-Murphy, who will give us the keynote presentation today in water sector innovations for new climate reality. Carla is the CEO of the International Water Associations, and we really look forward to welcoming Carla and looking forward to an inspirational keynote speech. So maybe a big applause for Carla, and handing over to you, Carla.
So good afternoon, everyone. And can I just also thank Doru, who's a good friend of mine. Thank you for the kind invitation and also Water. It's really a great honor for me to be here today and to speak to you all. What I'd like to, can we get the PowerPoint? Yeah. What I'd like to speak to you today is really about some of the things that I see in my role as the CEO of IWA in terms of innovations, particularly in response to the, let me go back. Okay, so what I'd like to talk about is really some of the innovations that we're seeing within the international water sector in response to some of the climate challenges that we're facing. To start with, let me begin by saying that water is very critical on many important agendas. We're all aware of the SDGs and its dedicated goal for water and sanitation. In terms of climate change, the IPCC is finally recognizing the importance of water in their climate discussions. And as they say, the climate crisis is a water crisis. And I often say that if climate change is a shark, then water is really the teeth of the shark. And then when we look at the global risk report that's published by the World Economic Forum, for almost 9 years, water was recognized as one of the top 5 risks to the global water economy. So clearly the private sector recognizes the importance of water because for them it's a material financial risk. But among all of these, I think the one that's really driving interventions and innovations within the water sector is really the climate agenda. And I'd like to focus on that. When we look at the water sector, particularly the urban water sector, our global contributions to greenhouse gases at the higher end is around 10%. And in this equation, wastewater is really the key. Because when you look at drinking water, most of the contributions are what we call scope 2 emissions. They're due to the electricity that we're using from the grid. Whereas with wastewater, we have a lot of what we call scope 1 emissions, emissions that come directly from the processes themselves, and also what we call fugitive emissions that come from, these different emissions leaking from the wastewater treatment processes, mainly methane and nitrous oxides. So from a mitigation perspective, I think that wastewater is probably the most interesting. But also wastewater is important because most of the planet currently doesn't treat it. You see, 80% of wastewater is not treated. but now we're seeing a growing interest in wastewater treatment. Many countries are on the cusp of investing huge amounts of money to address this issue, particularly in this region of Eastern Europe, in Latin America, in Sub-Saharan Africa, and in South Asia. A lot of money is being pumped into this. And the question is, can these investments in wastewater treatment be done in a way which is low carbon? You see, historically, the water sector was known for being a building block of the high carbon economy. But now, through innovations, there's really an opportunity for us to be the building block for the new low carbon economy. The other thing I want to point out is that in these emerging areas, like in Eastern Europe, in Asia, in Latin America, in Sub-Saharan Africa, these emerging economies have the opportunity to really learn from the experiences and some of the mistakes of the global West. You see, in the West, the last 70 years was like one big pilot study. They built lots of clunky systems, which they have improved incrementally. And now these countries that are investing in infrastructure have the opportunity to build much more elegant, more efficient systems. And I think this is really a big opportunity. Now, when we think about mitigation within the water sector, the big focus is really on intensification. That's where most of the innovations occur. And intensification is where we're trying to deliver the same treated water quality outcomes while using less energy and a lower physical footprint. Now, there's a lot of innovations in the space of intensification, and you can see some of them there. When you look at carbon redirection, this is where we're using new technologies to remove more organic matter from our primary settling tanks. And this means that we can have a lower organic load in our bioreactors. And this allows an increase in the throughput in the reactors, and it also reduces the energy requirements. So we can get improved performance at a lower energy footprint. That's intensification. When you look at aerobic granular sludge, this changes the physics of our processes. It improves the settleability. AGS particles are denser, they're more compact, and this leads to better solid liquid separation. And this allows for smaller clarifiers or higher throughput for our existing clarifiers. So we can optimize the space of our treatment plants. Thermal hydrolysis, it's again a process that changes the physics of our processes. Canby is the most famous. What it does, it's like a pressure cooker, which reduces the viscosity of our sludge. And that means that we can increase our sludge loading rates into our anaerobic digesters. So again, more throughput and enhanced energy production, more biogas can be produced. So all these innovations allow us to implement more efficient systems that use less energy and have smaller footprints, meaning lower CapEx and OpEx, and also much lower emissions. But we need to be cautious, as there can be sometimes some unintended consequences associated with some of these technologies. Remember, when we're talking about mitigation, we're talking about greenhouse gas emissions and not energy. They're not always the same. For example, if you look at a process like Anamox, I had a picture of the red particles in the previous slide, that improves our energy efficiency when removing inorganic nitrogen, right? That's why we use it. But some studies suggest that such processes could produce a considerable amount of nitrous oxides, which are 300 times more potent than carbon dioxide. So we employ an energy-saving technology, but that technology might actually contribute more to greenhouse gas emissions. Quite counterintuitive. You know, you're reducing energy, but you're increasing your greenhouse gas emissions. So we need to be clear. When we talk about mitigation, the goal is to save energy, is not to save energy, but to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. And this might sound a little bit like a contradiction, but in some cases, it may be possible to use more energy, more electricity to actually help reduce your greenhouse gas emissions. And this thinking is becoming more interesting as our energy starts to move to more sort of renewable energy, because in that stage, our Scope 2 emissions are almost tending to zero. Now, the other part of the puzzle in terms of climate change is adaptation. I like to call it supply chain resiliency. And here we're really talking about the productive use of water and the circular economy. What we mean by the productive use of water is this idea that we think about what is it we want the water to do for us, and how can we match the quantity and the quality of the water to that intended use. In these cases, we move away from this notion that we have to use drinking water for everything. And we realize that we can use water multiple times, and we can cascade the uses of our water. In terms of circular approaches, what we're really talking about here is the recovery of value from our waste streams. And we see a lot of work on recovering phosphorus, recovering biopolymers, and of course, energy and water. Now, a good example of the productive use of water, and this is a classic example, is from Los Angeles, where the West Basin Initiative gets wastewater from the city of Los Angeles. And what they do is they use different plug-and-play technologies to create what they call designer waters, or waters of different flavors. So they use certain plug-and-play technologies to create waters for irrigation, for cooling. They use another sequence of technologies, a different treatment train, to produce water for industry, for refineries. And then they use another treatment train to produce water for things like artificial aquifer recharge. So when you think about the productive use of water, here you have water that has already been productively used by the city of Los Angeles, and then it's being used again, this multiple use or cascading use, for more clever productive purposes, as you see on the right-hand side. And talking about the productive use and the reduction of our water footprint, I think the new IBNet management practice tool that's being developed includes explicit questions on how to capture what's being done globally on the demand side management part. And I would encourage all of you, particularly the IAWD family, to use these tools to improve their demand side management programs. When we look at the other part of the circular economy, of course, energy recovery is the big thing. And I've talked already about the CANBE process, this thermal hydrolysis, pressure cooking the sludge. But now we're seeing a lot of interest in co-digesting food slurry, our food waste, with our wastewater sludge. And in many cases, we can almost get triple amount of energy that we get if we just use our wastewater sludge. And so the opportunity for us to become net positive energy from our wastewater treatment works is a real thing. Now, how we use that energy, of course, there's a lot of use of CHP engines where the energy is used to produce electricity, but also to produce heat. But now we're seeing CHP engines being used to drive absorption chillers to give us source for cooling. And so we now have what we call CCHP engines, where they do combine cooling, heat, and power, what we say is as tri-generation, as opposed to cogeneration. Now, water treatment plants and wastewater treatment plants have very large surface areas. And you see a lot of water utilities putting solar panels across their surfaces of their various water reactors and also across the roofs of their treatment plants to generate a lot of energy for their treatment plant. For example, in Xixi City in China, solar panels are covering over 4,000 square meters with a potential power generation of 3.5 million kilowatts per hour. The new kid on the block is hydrogen generation. And you're seeing a lot of research in how we can take our treated wastewater and by electrolysis, generate hydrogen at one of the electrodes and oxygen at the other electrodes. The hydrogen is used for energy production, either for fuel for vehicles or to sell. And the oxygen, in some cases, they're looking at how that oxygen can be used for aeration in their wastewater treatment processes, their biological treatment process. Now, currently, this is still very much in research because the energy required to produce the hydrogen is more than the hydrogen, the energy value of the hydrogen in itself. So you're not getting a net positive yield. but it is a very interesting research area, which I think will grow in the future. Now, there are many technologies for resource recovery. We're recovering phosphorus for fertilizers, biopolymers for plastics, sulfur for lithium batteries. However, many of these solutions are very much at the early stages of their development, and it's not clear if they will provide a decent financial return. And this is important because currently the main focus is on technology development and not the business models. There's very little research on trying to understand the market for these products, the profitability of these products. And so we are quite a long way away from making money from these recovered resources. The business models actually are quite complicated. If you take, for example, phosphorus recovery from a wastewater treatment works, a lot of people believe that that phosphorus can produce fertilizers that can be sold at a huge profit. But actually the business models are a little bit more interesting. So let's say you have a wastewater treatment plant. It receives income from households to treat its wastewater, and it has to remove phosphorus, and it might do it itself, or it might have a third party removing the phosphorus. Now, the reason it removes the phosphorus is not to produce fertilizers to make money, but really to stop blockages in its return to activated sludge lines, because phosphorus precipitates in those lines, and it creates a huge problem from an operational maintenance point of view. So the return on investment is really in this part of the story. Now, as a side hustle, they might decide to produce struvite, which is a high quality fertilizer, and sell it on. And they might make some money from that. But the bulk of the money is really in the operational maintenance savings, right? That's the business model. And so very often people say you can make a lot of money from fertilizers, but actually it's a bit more complicated than that. And we need to do a little bit more those sorts of analysis. Another interesting area where we're seeing a lot of innovation taking place is in the area of decentralization. The water sector is thinking about decentralization as a tactical opportunity, an ability to be nimble, frugal, and speedy in the delivery of services. You see, traditional systems are very heavy. They require a lot of effort to get them moving. There's a lot of planning, a lot of land approvals, a lot of money, a lot of time to implement. And this leads to long-term procrastination. Now, I've traveled to many countries where a senior decision maker 10 years ago will say, I'm going to build a centralized wastewater treatment works with a sewer network. And then you go there 5 years later, and the same person is saying, I'm going to build a wastewater treatment works with a big sewer network. And you go now, and they say the same thing. They procrastinate because these are very challenging. Decentralization avoids some of these issues. In most urbanizing areas in the emerging economies, what you'll find is there'll be a centralized core where you have maybe a centralized system with some sewers. And you'll have a large area which is unserved. And what we've tried to do is extend our sewer network or our water distribution network to these communities without really adding any additional service. And so what you have is you get a spaghetti and chaotic network where there isn't enough to actually push out those resources or move those resources to where they have to go. And so even though there's the physical infrastructure, these systems don't work. Outside this core, so now what you're seeing is you're seeing the interest in more sort of distributed systems. So if you imagine that we were to ring fence that centralized core and then look at how we can apply decentralized units on the outskirts. These decentralized units can be grown incrementally, so they can map the population growth as it happens. They also allow you to stage your investments, and you can deliver services along the way as you're building them. Another very important aspect of these decentralized solutions is that they can be technologically agnostic, which means you can use different technologies in different modules. So if you have an area with very high income communities, you can decide to deploy a certain type of solution. And in a low or middle income community, you can deploy a different type of solution. You can be technologically agnostic. The other thing about these systems is that they support the circular economy objectives because the resources are being generated close to where they are needed and where they can be used. Now, water is very heavy, and the traditional centralized model is we extract water from afar, we move it long distances, we treat it, we then move it long distances for the people to use. Once the people have used it, we move it long distances to treat, and then we think, let's move it back to these people to reuse. And that doesn't make a lot of sense because there's a lot of lifting, there's a lot of energy involved. But with these decentralized options, you're doing everything close to the source. Another interesting feature about these systems is that they have an inbuilt resiliency. When you have a failure within your system, an extreme event, if it hits you, centralized systems tend to get knocked out. But these decentralized systems can contain the failure within a few modules. And so the event doesn't knock out the entire system. It just knocks out these few modules on the outskirts. So it has this sort of resiliency to extreme events that you don't have with centralized systems. So what we're talking about really is a hybrid, right? You have some centralization, but also lots of decentralized options. And you've got some very good examples of these types of hybrid solutions around the world. It's an emerging sort of area of interest that we're seeing. And you have housing estates that are coming off the grid and doing these clever things. And here you've got some examples from Germany, from the United States, from Sweden. Most of these systems are only using 50% of the water from the grid. All the other water is because they do these clever things. If you look at, say, the system in Ocean Sham, they collect black water in one pipe, they collect gray water in another pipe, they collect the food waste in another pipe. They combine the food waste and the black water to produce energy, which fuels their public vehicles. And then the gray water is used to produce shrewvite for fertilizers, and the sludge that they produce is used as a soil conditioner. So this type of thing is already happening. The final thing I wanted to mention is that when we look at new innovations, we need to understand what hinders their uptake. And this has a lot to do with what we call readiness. The problem, however, is that our focus has mainly been on technology readiness. But there are also many other dimensions of readiness that we need to think about. Now, I'm sure most of you are aware of what we call technology readiness. These are sort of the 9 ladders of evolutionary development. 1, 2, and 3 is when someone in a university has a research idea and they start developing that research idea. 3, 4, 5, they start developing pilot projects, demonstration projects. And then as you go 7, 8, 9, these ideas are going into commercialization. So that's technology readiness. But as I said, there are other dimensions of readiness that hinder the uptake of innovation. Societal readiness asks the question, are we addressing a societal need? Has there been effective stakeholder engagement and testing? And finally, will people be willing to adopt this new innovation, and will they be willing to pay for this new innovation? Organizational readiness is about the capacity of utilities to use the innovation. Do they have the capability and the skills? Questions around how would they integrate these new ideas into their existing processes? And what will be their pain to gain ratio? And then you have the regulatory landscape. New innovations can only be used if the legislative and regulatory framework allows for them to be taken up. So legal readiness is really critical because it can hinder, but it can also stimulate innovation. Now, readiness is a complex issue. It's not homogeneous. For example, if you take energy recovery, waste to energy, we tend to have high levels of readiness across all the dimensions. There's really no controversy about using biogas for energy production. But if you look at, say, material pathways, something like water reuse, the technology readiness will be very high, but the readiness on the other dimensions tends to be quite low. And this might be due to actual or perceived risks, where culture also plays a very important role. In this situation, it would be pointless for us to focus on developing the technology further and further. And our focus should be really on these other dimensions of readiness to try and improve the uptake of these solutions. These frameworks are very useful for utilities. I always finish with this slide, and it's just to say that with all the global change pressures that we're experiencing, we can't stay in the left-hand lane, business as usual. Our systems were never really designed for the types of conditions we're currently facing. Currently, the sector is tinkering. It's trying to repurpose its current infrastructure through intensification. That's what we're trying to do, but there's limits to that. For me, we really need a paradigm shift. We need to rethink the way in which we use water, the way in which we reuse water. And we need to even rethink the topology of our systems. We have to think about the opportunities that maybe decentralization might offer us. And of course, new innovations, how it's going to allow us to transition to this more sort of circular approach by design and not by necessity. That concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Carla. Stay with me up here, please. Thanks for this inspiring presentation and also for providing the frame basically for the next day of discussion. Please take a seat. Carla will stay here with us on the panel. And I would like to invite Monica Weber-Farr, who will moderate from now on the upcoming panel discussion. So Monica, over to you.
Thank you. So not just Carla and myself, but a few other people are between you, the poster session, the drinks, and an afternoon. I think we got enough great ideas here from Carla to start reflecting a little further what we do. As you can see, we have an interesting panel that now gets to reflect on, do we actually agree with what Carla has told us? Now, this is going to be a little bit of a high-tech session. We figured the topic is innovation. We have one participant, namely Vera Iro from the European Water Regulators, who should join us. There she is. Look at that. Technology works. Welcome, Vera. We also have two further panel members that I would like to invite to come up here. There's Georgi Constantin from Romania. Georgi, do come up, please. And then I have Elsa Alba. Where are you? Oh, here we go. Georgi, why don't you come here? And then we have Elsa. I think we've got more chairs than we are people, but you know, why don't we have an honorary chair here for our friend from Portugal? And so we get to debate a little bit whether or not we agree, what we think about, what we've just heard from Gela. The topic of innovation is obviously an important one, but we were thinking we could invite all of you to participate also with some questions on perspectives. But the technology is losing us a little bit. So hopefully we can debate some of these conversations also a little bit later over the poster session. We will conclude this particular session with a little film with which we are marking an important event, actually, which is the launch of the WaterWise EU campaign, which for those of you who are working, living, and managing water in the European Union, it's actually quite important. It's part of the EU Green Week that is taking place right now. So we're kind of taking Brussels on as well. So with that, maybe if you'd allow me to travel over to Portugal. Vera is a lawyer by background, but has been working with regulatory organizations, regulatory issues for some time. And we were just hearing from Carla that, you know, it's not just whether or not the mindset is right, the technology investment is right, but there's also such a thing as legal readiness for innovation. I don't know whether that's where you wanted to start, Vera, but your take, would you have framed the conversation about innovation similar to what we've heard from Gela? Would you have put something else much more on the front of our perspectives? Vera.
Many thanks. It's a privilege to participate in this discussion. I'm now in Portugal, in a very, very distant and remote place in Portugal, discussing sustainability now in the northeast of Portugal. And so thanks to this technology and innovation, I am able to be at the same time here in Baião or Porto, and in Romania. So that's a huge topic around actually innovation. And it allowed me to hear very well what was said before, and many thanks for your presentation, Carla. And the first word would be that I would not do anything better than what has been said previously to me. So innovation and the way that it has been put from a technical perspective, I would not add anything more to that. I would just actually pinpoint some topics that I found to be very interesting, because when we speak about water crisis and that image that was used, the shark and the teeth of the shark, I had never thought about that, but I will use your image if you allow me, because this is a very impressive thing when we speak about climate crisis and water crisis, and use this particular idea that this is, at the end of the day, too much water or too less water. But I would actually stress out from what was said, two topics that kind of resiliate with reasoning with what we are discussing currently also in Portugal and in Europe, which is governance perspective and readiness in what regards the governance perspective. So you can have the technicalities completely prepared to implement what needs to be done. But at the end of the day, if there is no consensus from a governance perspective, it is very, very difficult to be ready and to actually do things better and the way they need to be done. So from my part, the last part of your presentation regarding readiness and the need for utilities to also consider other aspects that are more connected with governance in order to choose where they are going to invest. That is one topic that I would underline as something very critical, and that from an empirical perspective here in Portugal, when we speak about scarcity and the investment that needs to be done and the innovation that needs to be implemented, this is something that has been very critical also here in Portugal. Bad governance leads to high difficulties in implementing good technology. So this is something that I would stress out. The other topic that I would stress out, and will be connected with something that I will put forward a bit further on in our discussion, is the focus that you have made on waste. So the focus that a big chunk of the water crisis and decarbonization also needs to be dealt with, looking at the wastewater sector. And this is something that sometimes it's not said in that clear way as you have said it, and in Europe in general, there is actually an opportunity to look to the wastewater activity and to improve in so many different ways, and to actually make that productive use of water that you referred. So look at we are currently also in Portugal looking at what is the purpose of the use of this water, and so what is the quantity and quality of water that we need to use for that particular use, be it agriculture, be it to the waste sector in general, be it for anything different from drinking purposes. And this is also something that I found very, very interesting in your presentation, and that I would pinpoint and underline also as a very, very strong opportunity for our sector to be focused on the wastewater activity.
Thank you. So from Vera's perspective, the European regulatory, the Portuguese perspective, let's figure out how we can even come together in our decision-making processes, because without that, innovation won't really move, and really put an emphasis on the wastewater side, because that is critical on the innovation perspective. Now, Georgi, from the Romanian government's perspective, anything that you would have added to Carla's words, or would have said, oh, he forgot that. For me, this is the most important thing. Hey, this is the moment. We can tell him, right?
Yeah.
And maybe let's keep it brief so that we get to have one more round.
Yeah, no, we will not add, I understood, and we agree with what was presented. I have only one problem, maybe I misunderstood the issue of decentralization. Why? Because now in Romania, you concentrate for consolidation of the water services. And we consider that this was a success. If somebody will come today and say he's wrong, we will have a problem with this. And maybe we are speaking about two different issues.
Yeah. And consolidation may not mean centralization. So I will get to Carla in a moment on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
If it's this, it's another. And in this consolidation, we tried, at least in our effort, to implement the EU directive, specific EU directive. We are trying to build system more centralized, because we consider that we spend less money for operation and for building. Okay, other issue which probably should be discussed is affordability. Affordability not only related to the people to afford, better services, but also technology. I assume that in the spatial station, they have a lot of technology there to treat the wastewater, not to produce water. In fact, water is the same. It's just redistributed to this climate change. In some parts, it's now more water, in other less. But we are drinking the same water as dinosaurs hundreds of millions ago. The idea is that this affordability and how this the result of innovation will be available to be used. Short.
Thank you. And I love it that you're bringing up the point of affordability. It's very interesting when you look at other sectors, such as the energy sector, where decentralization of energy provision and falling prices have gone hand in hand, dramatically so. So quality up, prices down, and efficiency up. So that we've seen in other sectors. Be interesting to see. So from your perspective as I don't know, do you want to speak from the Tirana perspective or from the Young Water perspective? What would you like to speak from, Elsa? Both. So just very briefly, your take, anything that you might have framed differently or where you wanted to add?
Actually, I just have one comment. So Carla, thank you for your presentation. It was really interesting. I just liked the two first sentences, how they go with each other. So the first one was that water is big on a global agenda, and the other one was that mitigation starts with wastewater. So we really need to put our attention and to invest more on wastewater.
Well, there we go. That was a very brief perspective. Before I'm inviting you to respond, I wanted to just go one more round from each of you, an example of the most inspirational innovation that you have seen. Just one example, perhaps. And I also wanted to mention that because in the beginning, when Kati asked that question about where do you stand on innovation, right? What does it, a lot of people put their hand up and saying inspirational, it's so important. But we do know that this sector is very conservative and really struggles with changing things for very good reasons, because safety matters extraordinarily much. And we can't just, fiddle around with a little pilot here and there. You put the wrong solar panel somewhere, the world won't end. But if you do a wrong innovation in a water system in a city, you might have a massive mess at your hands. So maybe we'll start in Portugal, we go this round, and then we end with Kayla. One example for your favorite innovation, the most inspirational one that you have seen. Vera?
This was a very difficult query that you have put to us, and I didn't know the Carlos presentation, so but it really is something that is connected with what Carla was saying. So I chose an innovation that was made by a local company, so with a small scale that only serves one of the biggest cities here in Portugal, but it's a very small scale. But it can actually be something that can be shared with other utilities, and it's something that is doable and connected with the wastewater sector. And so, do you mind if I share my screen for 10 seconds? Is this possible? No? Okay.
Even 15, but it got to be under 1 minute.
Yeah. Oh, then I need to be very, very quick.
How are we doing on time?
So let me see here. I'm not able to do it so quickly. So, but I will let you know what this is. So this is a 3D impression that was developed in the Oporto region here in Portugal to actually manufacture all the fire hydrant covers, the ceiling heads, everything that is used in the waste sector, and that covers the network, and that is seen from the outside. So this was something that was made in metal. The circular covers that were made in metal and that are on the streets, they started to be stolen because metal was very it was sold in the market. And so this is something that is currently made in bioplastic using waste bioplastic. So the waste sector also is included here. And they actually produce themselves by printing in 3D. They print all the covers that are used now in the city for the waste grid. So this is innovation, and it's something that is doable in a very small scale, but actually can make a difference
from the
yes,
wastewater management perspective.
Yeah, so was something that was developed decentralized, and that can actually be scaled up to other utilities in the country, and it's connected with the waste and the way that we look to the waste sector and also to the wastewater sector. So
thank you.
This was
and
my
we
chart.
can see, Vera, it's hard for you to stop. Find it very inspirational. What I would love to do, I think everyone in this room will have an inspirational innovation. We could still open up the where you were beforehand, that app. We can't show it on the screen, but we can collect it, and the team can report tomorrow back on that, on what everyone here in the room has as an inspirational example. Georgi, your inspirational example of an innovation that you think that really makes a difference?
The Carla's presentation using not the wastewater, but the drinking water area for using the solar panels for the energy is done. I will tell you something. They ask us if it's possible legally, and we say no in the ministry, because the area is protected area around the wells, and we say no, the law will not allow you to use anything except what is for what is necessary for your water abstraction.
So you may need legal innovation here too.
Yes.
In order to make it possible.
On the other hand, I want to add another two issues. One, which is not an innovation, is this regionalization process in Romania of the water services. We still consider a success, at least for Romanian condition. And the third, it's improving capacity of the regulatory authority. they have to be improved, but further, but to take into account, including what we discussed today about innovation.
Thank you. Elsa, inspirational innovation.
Yeah, I think that we don't have like innovations in our country, but I would say that we do have mechanisms that are like inspiration for us. Even as an hydrotechnical engineer who works at a national agency of water supply and sewerage, or even as a young water professional. So there are reforms in the water sector that is led by the institution where I work, National Agency of Water Supply and Sewerage. So we had like 48 utilities, and now we have like 15 regional companies. And in this way, we have progressed with those human resources by depolitization. We have correct those mismanagement of the funds and so on. Also, we have like those supervising councils in those regional companies that do supervise the activity of the companies, their funds, the way how they work, employees structure, and so on. I want to highlight something that is really inspiring and also who helps a lot to progress those regional companies is the help of Shukalp, which is making a lot of trainings and manuals to train all the workers in those regional companies, also the employees that are at ACUC or those supervising councils.
Thank you. And I thought it was fabulous to hear if you are stuck, you don't have enough money for innovation on the technology side, the regulatory regime doesn't allow you, can still innovate from the organizational setup through different policies and changes on that. Now, Carla, we've heard a lot about different innovations. If you had to pick a gem, where you would say, which would be the gem from your perspective?
For me, the area that I think is most interesting, and I didn't talk about it, is the Reinvent the Toilet initiative from the Gates Foundation. And this is where they already have, I think, some 10 or 15 prototypes of toilets where the toilet does everything. You know, it treats the waste, it produces some value from the waste streams, and it means that people will never have to be connected to a sewer. Now, these innovations have not yet been commercialized, and they're in that process of trying to commercialize them. But I think that this will be very transformative for our sector, and it will certainly help to get more affordable sanitation to the Global South if they can make it at the price.
And the interesting question would, of course, be applications in the Global North as much. Right. Now, I can see the organizing team getting nervous. We did want to continue this conversation a bit further, but I would rather that we now take a quick look at the at what Brussels tells us in terms of the WaterWise campaign. So if you bear with us, it's just a 3-minute little video, and then we'll conclude here as a panel. Kati, can we have the WaterWise campaign? I love that word, by the way. I don't know about you guys, but can we please all become WaterWise? So let's see.
For allowing me to address the Danube Water Forum. My name is Ingelberg Andersen. I'm the head of communications at the European Commission's Directorate General for the Environment. At the exact same time that you're meeting in Brussels, we're organizing the EU Green Week. This year, our annual conference is dedicated entirely to the topic of water resilience. While it's a pity that the two events take place in parallel, not least because it deprives me of the opportunity to revisit the beautiful Carpathians, I think it is no coincidence. In fact, the two conferences underscore how water is increasingly claiming its rightful place at the top of the political agenda. The broken water cycle is a global phenomenon, yet at the same time, the imbalances translate differently across Europe. Too little water, too much water, too polluted water. Drought in south of Spain is very different from flooding in Slovenia or groundwater pollution in the Netherlands. Yet under these more and more frequent events, we find some common root causes that together weaken our water resilience. climate change, overconsumption, underinvestment, mismanagement. Above all, perhaps, our collective failure to recognize that water isn't an infinite resource, but a valuable gift we share. It's time to see water differently. The good news is that we largely know what we should do to restore water resilience. We have the solutions, the knowledge, the technology, the laws and regulations. At the same time, we need to step up action at all levels, European, national, regional, local. We need to make economic sectors work together instead of in competition, encourage further cross-border cooperation, stimulate investment, foster innovation. All that starts with seeing water differently. Today, we launch a new awareness raising campaign. We call it WaterWise EU. It's a campaign that aims to spark conversations about water and make Europeans see water differently. And it's a campaign that has partnerships at its heart. I take this opportunity, therefore, to invite all of you at the Danube Water Forum to join the campaign and help us spread the word. Restoring water resilience is a common European challenge. However, the solutions must reflect the local context. Therefore, we have designed WaterWise EU with maximum adaptability in mind. An extensive toolkit of campaign assets is available for partners in all EU languages and fully adaptable to make the campaign as relevant as possible for your specific issues. Use the material as it is, or include your own messages, visuals, and success stories to make sure that the campaign resonates with your audiences and networks. My team is here to assist you. The campaign starts today and runs throughout the summer and autumn. At the same time, we aim to build networks and a movement that will continue to raise awareness on these important matters long into the future. I hope you will join us. I will finish by showing you the campaign video, which was released just minutes ago at our official launch in Brussels. I wish you a continued successful conference. Together, let's be water-wise and help others see water differently.
What if we saw water differently? Not as an infinite resource, but as a gift we share. Not as something we take for granted, but something we respect. Instead of being overwhelmed by water, we work with it. What if we saw it not as a source of conflict, but a source of cooperation? We already have the solutions. Let's use them wisely. See water differently.
So I'm sure many of those messages are not new to the many hydro engineers in this room, to the many water specialists, the water legal people in this room. But if they truly have information and campaign materials in all EU languages, that's kind of cool and something that everybody can use. So with that, I think a big thank you that we should send back to Brussels. A big thank you to our panel here. Greetings to Portugal. Thank you, Georgi, Elsa, and Carla. Now we get to go outside, but not just to be refreshed, but also for dialogue with each other, for networking. And mind you, there's a whole lot of people, before you leave, check out the poster session. A lot of people have put a lot of work into these posters and want to have discussions with you about them. Right, Kati?
Exactly. And just to add to this, we will start with the poster session with like pitch presentations in roughly 15 to 20 minutes. First of all, you can